What are you up to today? One thing for sure, you've invited us into your home for a half hour, and we at Promise Christian Live hope it's worth your time. But otherwise, what are you up to? Are you breaking under the load of the daily grind of life? That load will become lighter if, just for today, you do somebody a good turn and not get found out. And just for today, do not show anyone that your feelings have been hurt. Or they may have been, but just for today, don't let it show. Now let me turn the program over to our host, Dr. Mike McKinney, President of Promise Christian University. Who do we have with us today in the studio, Mike?
Well, thank you, Dudley. We're just delighted to be back on the air again with Promise Christian Live TV. And Dudley, you've helped us to have a wonderful guest on the program today, and I know our viewers are really going to be very as excited as I am when you hear this wonderful testimony from Rabbi Rene Bloch. Nice to have you, Rabbi.
Good to be here.
Thank you, sir. And you have such a tremendous testimony, and you have such a great and marvelous life, and we'd like you to share with our viewers today. And I know that you are currently the senior rabbi at Beth Shalom Ministry and Temple, but also you have had an illustrious career in the music world in the area of the big bands. Would you like to share a little bit about Rene Bloch and his orchestra?
Well, where do we start?
I know.
First of all,
yes.
You know, when you want to talk about my orchestra, I didn't start it until 1951 with my own band. But I started recording with the different bands. I recorded with Johnny Otis. I played a solo called Harlem Nocturne.
Oh, yes.
That became a big hit for Johnny. And, of course, after that, we did our bit with Harry James and Charlie Barnett.
Wow.
And I spent a lot of time with Perez Prado's band.
Oh, yes.
And that band took us all over.
My.
From Los Angeles to New York, and all over the country here.
So you played with several major leading bands during that time, and
yes.
And it's just like you had all these wonderful opportunities. And how did you happen to get with, let's say, the Perez Prado? How did that come about?
Well, he started the band in L.A., and
oh, yes.
And they needed all musicians from Local 47. And so I was called because I played lead alto with other bands, and
oh, yes.
So they hired everybody from L.A., Local 47, of course, you know, and it was a lot of fun, and I spent a lot of time with his band.
Oh yes. Uh-huh.
He finally we recorded Cherry Pink.
Oh yes.
We recorded Patricia. That was another big hit for him, and of course all the things that he did.
Right.
And
Cherry Pink was the film with the underwater movie, of course, with Jane Russell and
right.
Richard Egan and
Gilbert Rowland.
Gilbert Rowland, yes. And so you guys were the ones that recorded the music for the motion picture.
That's right. That's right.
Wow, that was a major hit.
That's true. the trumpet solo was played by Billy Regis at the time.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And so he did a great job.
Well, you did a great job too. You know.
Well, we were lucky.
Wow. And so you traveled with that band for a while, right?
Yes, I did. We started in L.A. and we went all up and down California, and then pretty soon we went all the way across to Florida.
Oh yes. Uh-huh.
And then up to New York. We were doing all kinds of jobs.
Oh, I see. Well, you guys kept very busy in those days, didn't you?
Yes, we were very busy.
You traveled a lot and going from place to place with the band.
That's right.
And you said you played with Harry James. Is that right?
Yes, I did that. Before I played with Prado's band,
I
was with Harry James. I was with him about 3 or 4 months.
Uh-huh.
And I had just left Charlie Barnett's band. We had
another great band.
Yeah. We got through in a tour that we did back east with Charlie Barnett's band, and then when I came back here, then I went with Harry James for about 3 or 4 months.
Oh my!
We did a recording at the time with Frank Sinatra. You know, that was really, if I can remember the name of some of the songs, but we did
You did the backup. You did the
Yeah,
music
of
for
course,
the,
yeah.
for the songs. And some of these things were done in the studio as well. Is that right?
Well, yeah, all the recordings were done in the studio.
I see.
Except some of the things, if they're done live, of course,
right.
They're done in a nightclub. But
yes, and then you played at the Palladium too. Tell us about how that happened. How you guys got in there?
Well, my band was pretty hot on Latin music,
Oh yes.
And so Chico Sesma, who was doing the bookings for the band.
Yes.
For all the bands, he'd have Tito Puente and my band.
Sure.
And every Latin band that you can think of has played at the Palladium.
Wow.
But there'd be a Latin holiday that he'd call it,
Mm-hmm.
where we'd have all the bands together,
Oh, it must have been fabulous.
Yeah, Manny Lopez, he was there, and Rene Tuzet was one of the bands
all the
also.
top people of that day. And
that era.
Yeah.
Tito Puente, of course.
Oh, of course.
Tito Rodriguez, Machito's band from New York. There was all of these big bands. They were fun.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well, I understand we brought some music from one of your CDs
Yes.
Of the band, and maybe we could hear a little bit of it while we share a little.
That would be great. That's from Mr. Latin. That was the
Mr. Latin one.
Yeah, we did a few albums, but this is the one that really was pretty good.
Great. Well, maybe they could put it on for us a little bit. And
Sure.
our viewing audience, you can hear a little bit of the band today. And we'll just listen to a little bit of it here. Rene Bloch and his orchestra. What's the name of this particular song?
That's called Mr. Latin's Mambo.
Mr. Latin's Mambo.
Yeah.
Wow. When was this recorded, did you say? This
Oh,
original?
gosh. Where in, I think it was 1953 or something like that. I can't recall.
You were a saxophone player, right?
Of course, yeah. And
And of course, that's your picture up there as a young man, very handsome.
well, that was the picture, of course, for the album.
Oh, great. Well, you must have really, all these years of playing, you must have really been excited. You had to be.
It was a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
It's always a lot of fun to play. I love to play with the big band.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had a great opportunity.
Wow.
We played at the excuse me, a club called Club Havana.
Yes.
On Sunset Boulevard, and I was part owner of the club.
Oh.
And so I had my band playing there all the time.
Club Havana, that was one of the places to go, wasn't it?
That's right.
Wow.
I remember one time we had a battle of bands, so to speak.
Yeah.
Tito Puente was on one side and my band was on the other. And Tito had written a song that was for two bands.
Right.
So his band would play and then my band would play, and it was all together. It was exciting.
It must have been a marvelous night.
That was fun. Yeah.
That's a night nobody's going to forget.
I know. That was really good.
Well, I think it's just fantastic that we can hear some of the music, and we can our viewing audience. I don't think we've ever had a program quite like this on Promise Christian Live, and I'm glad we are because, my sister is a retired jazz musician, Gloria Felice, and for years she played around Hollywood and West LA during the early 50s and knew a lot of these people. And when I mentioned that you were coming on the show, Rabbi, she was very thrilled because she remembered you, of course, from the big band days.
Right, right. She didn't know that I became a rabbi, I suppose.
No, she didn't know that, but I told her that.
Well, that was a miracle in itself.
Yeah, we'd like to hear about that too. Now, here we go from a very successful musician playing with some of the greatest and most major bands in America, and recording and doing motion pictures and all kinds of studio recordings. And now all of a sudden, something took place that changed the course of your life. And I know our viewing audience, and I certainly would love to hear what happened.
Well, it's a long story, but I'll try to make it short.
Okay.
My wife and I went to a marriage encounter, and some of our Jewish friends had gone to this, and they said, "Hey, this is going to be great. You'll love it." I said, "That sounds kind of Catholic, isn't it?" and they said, "No, but it's not the way you think." So we went on that, and it was fantastic. Where the priest that spoke to me said, "Hey, you're Jewish, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." What about it? I thought he was going to come against me for something, and I said, well, I am, and what do you want to do about it? He said, well, I want to read you a scripture, and I want you to hear it. And he read Isaiah 53.
Oh, yes.
And Isaiah 53, he read it right down, and every word, it was exploding in my mind, in my heart, because he was describing Yeshua,
yes,
Jesus, the Messiah.
Yes.
And so when he finished that chapter, he said, who do you think that was? I said, well, that's something from your Christian Bible. And he said, no, that's from your Bible. It's Isaiah chapter 53.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing statement for him to say. And then I would hear something like that. It sounded like he was talking about Yeshua or Jesus, you know.
Yes.
So that started us thinking, well, maybe there is something to this, you know.
Yes.
And so I heard about a Messianic Jewish congregation in Encino, it was called Temple Beth Emmanuel. And I called up one time and asked them, what do you guys believe? I said, well, we believe in Yeshua, mm-hmm. and we believe in the Old Testament, and we are a Jewish congregation. Mm-hmm. So I said, wow, that sounds really good. He said, well, why don't you come tonight? It's a Friday night. We're having a bar mitzvah. And I said, sure. So I took my wife and my son, Robert. We went over there, and we met the rabbi there. His name was Herbert Goldberg. Mm-hmm. Now, Herbert Goldberg was was involved with the Holocaust in a way, because his parents were shot to death by the Nazis.
Oh my!
And so he escaped. God saved him.
Yes.
And he somehow he became a believer because he went into a Lutheran church, mm-hmm. and somebody spoke to him about Yeshua, and somehow he became a believer.
Yes.
And well, he came all the way to the United States, and somebody that had a congregation here in Burbank. No, it was not Burbank. It was on Burbank, but it was in Encino. It was called mm-hmm. Temple Beth Emmanuel, and they wanted him to be the rabbi, and they chose him. Mm. He was a tremendous person, and he had wonderful stories to talk about, you know, especially his story about his folks being murdered in front of him, you know.
Yes.
And anyway, he was the one that really spoke to me in my heart, and my family. We were so enthused with what we heard, we became members of that congregation.
So through his testimony of the Holocaust,
mm-hmm.
and seeing his parents killed like that, and the way he shared from his heart, apparently the Holy Spirit got a hold of you guys.
Absolutely.
And really did something. You really had a marvelous experience from this.
It did.
Isn't that great?
Oh, yeah. It was fantastic.
Life-changing.
It'll do it to anybody.
Yeah.
Once it hits you and you believe and you know what you believe in, you know that God is in control.
Yes, that's
you
right.
know?
Yes.
Well, you know, after that, I decided that we wanted to go to live in Israel because we wanted to make Aliyah.
Yes.
And so we made arrangements to go, and we set it up, 1981 it was, and I got everything together. So I was going to go, my wife was going, my mother, three children, and even my little dog, Rocky, was going.
Rocky was going too.
They told me that he would have to be quarantined for 2 weeks.
Of course, they knew Rocky was Jewish too, of course.
Well, of course he was. He came from a Jewish family.
That's right.
We adopted him. So we decided to sell everything that we had, and set sail for New York. And we had the plane arrangements. So the date already set. We left California in July the 4th, I believe it was. It was July the 4th.
July the 4th.
Anyway, we went across the country on a motorhome because we took some things with us.
Yes.
Because some things we would not be able to take across. So we knew we'd have to buy things that were, acceptable in Israel. With the plugs are,
Oh, the lines are different.
Yeah, they're different.
Yeah.
So we knew we'd have to buy new stuff. But we traveled over there with all our stuff that we were going to be able to carry. 3 kids, my dog, and my mother, and my wife. That was our trip all the way across. It took us about 3 days to get there, but we stopped in Maryland because I met Dan Joster. He was the leader of a congregation there called Beth Shalom.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry, Beth Emmanuel.
Beth Emmanuel.
Yeah.
In Maryland.
Yeah. And so we stopped there. He said, why don't you stay at my house because we still had to wait about 3 or 4 weeks. He said, why don't you stay at our house, and because we're going to be going to New York on vacation. So during that time that we stayed at his house, I got together with Paul Wilbur and Mark Chapinski, and we started playing together. I played flute, sax, and Paul played guitar and sang. And we started Israel's Hope.
You started a group right there?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So the trip to...
totally inspired.
Yeah, exactly. It was all done by the Spirit of God. Because I had to postpone our Aliyah. I called the Aliyah office and I said, can you hold it a little bit longer because I can't go right now? Can we postpone it? Mm-hmm. They said, sure, just let us know when you're ready. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, well, we did all the things that we did with Israel's Hope. We recorded a couple of albums, and we traveled all over the country. We went to Israel. We came back, but then all of a sudden, Paul leaves. He's the leader of the group.
Yes.
And so I said, okay, Paul is going, so I think we should go back to the Aliyah. And so I called the Aliyah office, and I said, well, we're ready to go now. This is 10 years later. And they said, oh, well, now you have to start all over again.
I see.
So, wow, that really, that stopped us because to do that all over again was going to be really hard to do.
Yeah.
So then it came the opportunity to come back to California, and we did. And somebody wanted us to start, not start a congregation, but to lead a congregation because the rabbi was going to be leaving. Mm-hmm. So it was Beth Shalom.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was in Colton. And so, believe me, it was such a radical thing for me to become the rabbi of a congregation back in California. And it started as...
It's a miracle.
It was a miracle. But you know what? It's God's miracle.
Yes, it is.
Because it was not my idea. It was God's idea.
It's all God's idea.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah. So
did you ever dream you would be
No. No. I had no idea I would be a rabbi. I had no... What can I say? Nothing. Nothing.
How did this happen that you became a rabbi? Now, how did this take place?
Well, just with the experience that I had and the teaching that I had back in Maryland.
Yes, right.
Well, they needed somebody that had that experience.
I see.
And so because of that, I was able to take over the congregation. At the same time, I was able to learn to be the rabbi,
That's right.
Because it taught me a lot of things.
On-the-job training.
At the beginning, yeah. And it was really marvelous. Some of the people that were with me at the time are still with us.
Oh, my.
Really.
Well, you must have made a marvelous impact on their lives as a rabbi.
They did. They did a lot.
They fell in love with you guys too. I know.
Well, they did.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, then my son Robert, who was in charge of the youth, he's now developed into the rabbi of our congregation.
That's wonderful.
He's doing most of the work now.
Well, sure.
And he's doing a great job.
Oh, I imagine you're very proud of Robert.
I am.
And the Lord's calling on his life too.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have any idea that Robert would have this calling too?
I had no idea. I was hoping for it.
Yeah.
I was hoping for him and my other son, Rene, to also be involved. But Rene went into a different direction and kind of stalled his weight.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Well, God's working on everything.
And I'm sure that God has his plans.
Yes, a plan, yeah.
Sometimes we think we have our plans.
Right.
But God has his.
His ways are higher than our ways.
You bet. Yeah.
Isn't that great?
That's right.
So here you come from a very famous musician, very successful in the big bands and your own, and to becoming a rabbi of a congregation and ministering and working for the Lord. What a fantastic life story.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Really,
It really is.
Incredible.
And well, because of the fact that I had the experience back in Maryland,
Yes.
it helped me a lot over here.
Right.
A lot.
And this group, this musical group, that's very interesting how that got formed by the inspiration of the Spirit,
Exactly.
shall we say.
It was totally.
And then you guys just kept playing together.
Yeah.
It grew
Yeah.
and expanded.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was, and then all of a sudden we said, let's record something. So we recorded Introducing Israel's Hope, and then we did another one after that called Arise, O Lord.
Oh, yes.
And it became very, very big. We were nominated for the Dove Awards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with that album, yeah.
For the Dove Award.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Did you ever think that would happen?
No, not at all. Well, we didn't win, but at
No,
least we
but
were
to
nominated.
even be nominated. That's a great honor,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
any
It
group,
was.
It
was.
Well, the Lord's hand has been on you all these years, Rabbi.
Without a doubt.
There's no question
Without a
about
doubt.
that.
I mean, I have to tell that to everybody. We think that we are the ones that are doing it because we want to do what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But no, He is the one that's going to direct you. If you go one way that is not His way,
Right.
you're on your own.
That's true.
But if you go His way, He's with you, and He will protect you. He will be with you. He'll never leave you nor forsake you. That's His promise.
Isn't that wonderful?
Amen.
That's what He said. Never leave you, never forsake you. And so today you're very active. You're a very young man. And
Yes, I am, of course. Born in 1925.
Oh my! And this is marvelous because you're so active, and so the Lord's kept you in good health and strength, and
Yes,
and
He
of
did.
course that we were talking earlier about your ability to play and do music. That gift is always there, isn't it? It's there.
That's true. It's only God again.
It's only God. He did it.
Yeah,
He chose you to do these things. It's
exactly.
marvelous.
So that's why we have to obey Him,
Oh yes.
and I am.
Did you ever think that your life would touch so many other lives? As a young man growing up and all that.
And that's amazing. You're right about that. It has happened many, many times, and we've been able to help a lot of our people that are,
Oh yes.
hurting or problems that, praying for people that are in need,
Yes.
sick or whatever it might
I bet
be.
you've seen a lot of answers to prayer too.
I have, and that's what's amazing.
Isn't that
The
wonderful?
prayers that were answered on my part. I mean, I'm telling you now, this is all God's handling.
That's right. Are you thinking, Rabbi, of writing a book about your life story? It's very interesting.
You know what? I would like to do that someday. As a matter of fact, UCLA did a whole story on me.
Yes.
And it's at UCLA now. They call it Central Avenue Sounds. And,
is it like a documentary or something?
More or less, yeah. It's the life story, and it goes from the beginning to the present time.
How wonderful.
Yeah, and you can get the book for about $35.
Okay, that's
Anyway.
very good.
So I bought 3 of them.
Well, sure you would, of course. How interesting that they would do that, for your life story. I think it's just fantastic.
Yeah, well, they did that with a lot of the other musicians that,
Yeah.
like Buddy Collette and
Oh yes.
some of the other guys.
Some of the others that.
Can't, Jack Kelso and who was it? I mean, I can't think of everybody.
Some of the top flight people. They
all
did
the
this,
guys, yeah.
Like a little bio on every one of
Right,
these guys,
right.
for history purposes.
Exactly.
The music world.
Well, when they call it Central Avenue Sounds,
Yes.
it's because there was so much action going on on Central Avenue
Right.
during this time. During the wartime in 1944, 45.
Yeah.
So there was all kinds of action all over the place. So that's when I was playing with Johnny Otis in the club Alabama, it was called.
I see.
And Johnny had me play with his band, and I was very fortunate to play with him.
Wow, that's great. Well, Rabbi, it's been a pleasure and a joy to have had you on today on the telecast, and we're going to have you come back because our time is so limited. But I know that our viewing audience have been so delighted, as I have, to hear your wonderful story.
Yeah, well, there's so much more to talk about, but
we
don't have the time.
I know, and the grace of God that's on your life is just so wonderful because you just radiate His presence. You know, it's just marvelous.
Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. God bless you.
We appreciate, love you. And as you can see today from the viewing audience, the wonderful people that God is sending our way to Promise Christian Live TV as Rabbi Rene Bloch, and we know that he did so many wonderful things in the entertainment field and his own band years ago, and still working for the Lord today and very active. So I appreciate guests like this. Dudley, again, I want to thank you, Dudley, because you're the one that invited this wonderful man to be on our show today, and I thank you for that. We've been blessed.
Well, thank you, Mike. I've enjoyed it very much. I'm glad that Rabbi Rene was on the show and a real inspiration to me today, I'll tell you. And how about you? Was this half hour really worth your time? I certainly hope so. As I said in the beginning, do someone a good turn today. Will you do that? But let no one know about it. And if someone has hurt your feelings, just for today, don't let it show. Oh, by the way, Promise Christian Live would like to offer you a free gift. This month, we're giving you a calendar showing all of the Jewish holy days. Simply bring up on your website myfreetvgift.com. That's myfreetvgift.com. Or you can call 1-888-723-6233. God bless you. Shalom.